Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA 23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, joined by Dustin and Bogey, here to talk Star Wars with all you fans out there. I'm really looking forward to getting back into talking about Skeleton Crew. We have 3 episodes that we'll be catching up on. But just to get the business elements out of the way really quick, if you're listening to us right now, please hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate any little thing that you can do to help get our podcast and YouTube channel name out there amongst all the other Star Wars ones. You know, like, follow, download, hit that subscribe button, rate, review, all of it. We greatly appreciate it. And also
Speaking of business, I got my business socks on.
dang, you are in business mode right now. Hey, it
Please tell
matches.
me you got the reference.
No, I didn't.
Bogey, you know it?
No, I don't.
Flight of the Concords. Got my business
Oh,
socks.
I haven't seen that much at all, and it's been a long time. And also our chat is open, so let us know your thoughts about the most
Business
three
socks.
recent about business socks, and about the most recent episodes of Skeleton Crew. So I'll throw that spoiler tag out there. Spoiler alert: we'll be talking about episodes 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates. 6, zero friends again, and then 7, we're going to be in so much trouble, which just released today, and we just got done watching it. Last final episode, episode 8, will be out next week, and we'll talk about that at that point. So again, spoiler tag. If you haven't watched it, put us on pause, go watch it, and then come back and listen to what we have to say about it. So, just high level initial thoughts on these last 3 episodes, guys. We won't go through like a total breakdown, because for breaking down 3 complete episodes, that might take a little time, even though they're only like 30-minute episodes. But should we do like a high level of all 3 and then just do like brief talking about each 3? Does that sound
Sure.
good?
Sure. So,
Okay.
yeah. Episode. Would it be episode 3, 4? No, 4. Right.
What?
Well,
No, 5, 6, and 7.
5, 6, and
Five,
7.
5, 6, and 7. Yep.
Yep. So high
Who wants to
level,
start?
Dustin, go
To
for
me,
it.
to me, it's like the Verizon V, right? So you have good episode with the resort, and then it bottoms
Luxury
out with
spa.
the crab episode. Not a big fan. And then rocket ships, episode 7.
Crab people, crab
Crab.
people.
God, these kids are dumb. They're following these dumbass crabs. Anyway, but 7, man, 7 was so the penultimate episode, excellent.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I totally
swing,
echo that.
swing.
I was so happy at the end of that. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
wish we had the last one right now.
Yep, exactly how
So,
I felt. So,
Bogey,
and
I'm
that's okay. I
assuming.
mean, you'll
Oh,
have your
go ahead.
duds in a season. Well, I'll just say you have your duds in the season. So,
Yeah,
because they did such a good job in episode 7, in hindsight, I can say, you know, I think we're heading towards a good finale.
how about you, Bogey? Looking at your reaction, it seemed like you have the same sentiment about the 3 episodes.
The so if quick recap. So episode. So we're talking about the one episode where it felt like what do you call it? It was like going through what I'm thinking, like Disney classics of what they're talking about, or what they go or what they're trying to go through is they had the don't touch anything, don't Aladdin.
Oh,
Don't
oh,
don't
the when they get to the like boot, or where all the gold and gems
well
and
this
everything, like
don't touch
everything's
anything.
booby trapped. You're
Yep.
going through like Pirates of the Caribbean type thing.
So I totally gave me that vibe, and I'm like, okay, you're kind of stealing with it, but you're kind of going with it pretty in a good way, and I liked it. Um, then the following, like, is it like the end of the episode, or is it the beginning of the next episode where um Jude Law comes out and he's got all the all the loot?
Yeah, that's the next episode, because the episode 5 ends with him igniting that lightsaber when he's still in the room with all the bounty. And then the next one
The
starts with
booty.
the booty. And then the next one starts I think they're with the parents or something. They're trying to figure out a plan, but then it goes to the kids and they're like coming out of those tubes as they fled where Jude Law was or Jod was in the where the booty was.
Yeah. Yep. And then with that, like one of my knocks on that episode though is like, okay, you tease that he's got to be. What do you guys think? He's a Jedi. He's got have force sensitive.
I
Like
keep
what?
going back and forth. I think he's force sensitive. I think that's almost been pretty much established. I don't think he's doing tricks or anything. Um,
Because we'll talk about it when we get to this episode that just got
episode.
released today. But when that scene happened, I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, and then went to cut scene, and I was like, here, and you're like, okay, really? He's got to be, he's got to be a Jedi. And I know Dustin, you said no,
Oh,
early on. I was like, this guy's got to be
I think this
some
is
sort.
something they could explore more in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't always have to be that you're a Jedi or a Sith. You could just be a douchebag with powers, which is what I think Jod is, right? Like, and maybe he trained with the Jedi early on and realized this ain't for me, and just kind of was disenfranchised with both the Sith and I don't know his backstory. I'm not sure we'll get much of it at this stage, but I think it's that. It's like it's kind of like how the boys explores like what if all these douchebags have these superpowers? Kind of like that. It's like, oh, what if there's one guy who cares more about the pirate life than he does about any other organization? What if he's force sensitive? I think it's a cool thing. I hope that's what it ends up being, but I don't think he's a Jedi. I don't think he's a Sith. I think he's just Jad.
Just Jad. Hashtag just Jad. Um, yeah, I don't I mean the closest possibility I think he is to a Jedi is he's like an Order 66 youngling survivor, similar to like other characters like Riva or something like that. Like he was there during Order 66, somehow got away, and but I don't even know if it's that. I think it's something along the lines of what Dustin's saying, because we've seen like witches, they're not Jedi, they're not Sith, they have force powers. I think they're trying to build up the concept that anyone can have force powers, but it's just who's more sensitive or who's more powerful in it. Because look at Ahsoka and Sabine. Sabine's character wasn't like a Jedi or Sith, but and what is it? Hutang or Hutang or something. That droid was like, "You're the worst. You have the like worst amount of powers of anyone I've trained."
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think he could be someone that was just like Sabine, who just has these sensitivities, isn't the strongest at it, but has some sort of control over it and knowledge of it.
I think that's an interesting thought that if he was like a survivor or he's Order 66, because you can imagine that kind of trauma would lead you towards this
Yeah,
disenfranchisement. So again, I don't think we'll get much of his backstory, but that is a cool thought.
yeah. So again, that's the closest I think he would be to a Jedi, is like an Order 66 survivor youngling or something like that. Because his age would put him, he would have to be like a youngling, right? Or someone like of teen, or I'm trying to think the distance of time. It's probably
Yeah.
been 60 years, 50, 60 years at this point. So
One thing I
this,
really liked is, so you have the scene where uh Remy, is it Remy? What's his name? Win, sorry.
Win.
Wim.
Yep. Win.
When he comes out, he's got the lightsaber. And Judd's like, it's not gonna go how you think it is, and then he lights it upside down and like flies away. I thought that was kind of great. I'd like that because it's like, yeah, this kid's not gonna know like what the fuck to do with the lightsaber.
Yeah. It's showing his courage, but also showing his naivety. Would you native?
Yeah, but then that happens and he
Naivety,
immediately
not
cowers.
nativity,
Naivety.
naivety. Sorry, what
But
were you saying, Dustin?
Well, then he does that, and then you like go cowers under a chair, right? And that's when they pull the lever.
Yep.
By the way, I don't know if you guys remember this. What a horrendous death in this episode.
Where that guy gets shot and then
Yeah, it just goes up to the. But he probably
Spikes.
wasn't dead.
no,
They
no.
shot him right in the chest, so he's
Yeah.
and so he gets. I mean, it's a kid
But
show. That is horrendous.
I was happy about that. I'm like, way to make it a little more adult here.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like your last
thought the
moments,
same
you just see
thing.
those spikes.
I thought the same
Terrible.
thing. I'm like, because at first, if you remember earlier in the episode, they come across like some of the kids do, and they just turn on like the pumps or whatever, and it like sprays those 3 guards off the side, and with the mud or whatnot. And then Jod hits another one, and he kind of like, oh, and I'm like, okay, so here's like the kid violence that we're getting in this. And then fast forward like 5-10 more minutes, and you get that scene. I'm like, whoa, like, okay, wasn't expecting that. It's pretty cool that we're going to that level too.
Now, I do want to critique. So, if you remember, right, they drain the pool of acid.
Yep.
That was very Goonies, by the way. That little scene.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they do that, and then they go in, and then the pirates are trying to break in, and then Jod's just like, oh, fill the acid pool, and then just the most comical way, like they're basically yelling, oh, Jod, you silly goose. Do you remember like the yells of that?
Yeah.
They're so off what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Like people are literally getting melted alive by acid, and they're going, "You trickster, Jod!" I don't know if you remember that. I was like,
I remember that.
That does not jive with what's happening.
And even if it was filling with acid, you would think you would barely even be like muffled because you're like liquid above you. But yeah, it was. I thought the same thing.
If it filled from the bottom is how I would imagine it.
Right, because they were below it though, so you would not hear them above you. Is what I'm trying to say. But to your point, it's still very like, darn you, Jod.
Yeah,
like,
that's literally.
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. No,
Lester,
but I
need my notebook. How'd you get how'd you get my notebook?
Because it was so obvious. I think everybody thought that. Like, what is this?
But I would echo both things you guys were saying. Like, I thought episode 5 was good. Like, I'm like, all right, this is entertaining. Oh, what?
I was like, that episode was 10 out of 10. And
10 out of 10.
I got chills when what's his name? Jude Law's character, when he all of a sudden, like, because we were going back and forth about talking about if he was a Jedi or not, and he used the Force and grabbed the lightsaber, and he grabbed it the right way.
Yeah.
Versus what you were talking about, Dustin.
Which episode's a 10 out of 10 for you, Bogey? This
episode
one we're
5.
About?
The one that,
really
with
like I said, it felt like granted, like it stole a little bit of the whole what do you want to call it? Like what did I just say before? Aladdin of going down this temple, and he kept saying, "Don't touch anything."
Yeah.
And like just there was so much gold and everything that was there gave me goosebumps. And I was like, all of a sudden you saw a lightsaber. I was like,
yeah.
And then at the end, it was what's his name? Fern?
Her name? Yeah, Fern is the girl captain. Wim
Not
is
Fern, but
Wim, the boy,
Wim.
Okay.
When he did, like you just talked about Justin, just his lightsaber, like right in the. But when he grabbed it, all of a sudden it went to credits, and you heard, like you heard him turn it on. That's why I segue into the next episode. Why I'm so pissed about. So, well, I mean,
we'll get to that. Okay.
We'll segue into that episode, but if we have any more to talk about this episode, but that episode gave me goosebumps. Like when he grabbed it, and I was like, I knew it. He's force sensitive, or he's got Jedi's, or like whatever background,
some kind of knowledge of it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So what you're kind of saying is like you weren't expecting that to happen, and once it happened, it was such a shocker, and also it was like affirmation to what you were thinking about him, that's kind of what brought it at a 10 out of 10 for you.
I was expecting that, but I
Oh,
was getting a
true.
lot of I was getting a lot of doubt from our podcast here. You guys tell me like,
well, you're still probably getting a
I
little bit
don't
of doubt.
know, I don't know, and I was like, no, he's definitely has the force ability. So
Yeah, I think there's I mean, I would say probably 90% chance that he is definitely force sensitive. Because again, I just don't think, you know, magnets or tricks or whatnot are allowing him to do all of these
there's
things that he's been doing. I think that's been established because, I mean, granted, everything he's been manipulating is still metal. Has he done anything that's not metal yet? I can't really recall, but I still don't think it's tricks. I think he's actually using the force.
well, we'll segue into the later two episodes.
Right. But yeah, I thought the first episode or episode 5 was good. I thought the next one was definitely a step back. I think it was just kind of character relation building, just trying to establish like what Fern and KB mean to each other, more than anything. You didn't really get much between like Neil and Wim, but just kind of establishing a trust from Fern because she's supposed to be like the captain. So she's gaining like Neil's trust in terms of, okay, I'm going to help you through this obstacle that you can't accomplish by tying you on. And then, by
the way, terrible booby trap by the pirate guy, the Remlock, whatever his name is, right?
The Wolf
You go
Man.
down.
That
No,
guy?
no, the actual captain, because that's his little hideaway. All the treasure that was
Oh
in.
yeah.
That was like
Yep.
the actual captain.
Oh,
Oh yeah, just shoot you down into a sand pit, and then there's a ladder right there.
True. So yeah, that one, I mean, it was kind of just, it was okay. But it was just kind of, I don't know. It wasn't as exciting or anything. And then this most recent one was, that one would
I almost
be
want to
like
skip
9.5.
Six was boring, dude. It was, yeah, and then the ending was kind of dumb. The ending of episode 6. It just so happened
With
that
the
the
ship.
thing, yeah, just so happened
yes.
that the
Well,
armor.
Yes.
It just so happened that the thing
Yes.
grabbed it at the perfect area.
well, I mean, and we'll talk to that. We're just kind of giving a high level for each one right now. But yeah, and then how the last one just, that would be like a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Yep.
I say
I give it 10 out of
9.5
10.
because I want to see how it ends. Like, I think how this last episode ends impacts like the viewpoint of this last one. Because like if we continue on this, how good 7 was, then I'll give it 10 out of 10. But like if we just fall flat after this and then like not get much, it's like, okay, well, it was a great episode, but it wasn't leading me to what I wanted to see or what I was hoping for. So, all right. Well, let's first go to episode 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates. So we've already talked a little bit about this. I know, Bogey, you have notes, so I don't know if there's other things that you want to call to or have questions about with this episode. The only thing that was a little odd to me is like, this is supposed to be like a pathway to the most treacherous planet that anyone's really heard of.
I don't think
really
treacherous is a word.
Well, I know I'm using my own most
Okay.
bootyful.
Bootyful. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Bootyful planet. A bunch of old credit, like a mint producing planet. And the booby traps are the way to get to it. Didn't seem too complicated. You've got that one booby trap where Neil stepped on and it would like decapitate people. And then you go to like this pool of acid. And if you figure that out, then you're pretty much there. So
you got the spike one.
Oh yeah, the spike one too. But I mean, all things considered, I think that was just another product of having 30-minute episodes. You had to like speed it along.
Yep, just gonna say that.
Yep.
I think if we had a little more establishing time, you could have made it seem more, I don't know, dangerous or a little more risky to figure this out, because this is just under this luxury spa. And it's like, okay, well, just go down this too. This big creature is just going to bust a hole through the floor, and then you're going to go down and you're going to set your way. Like, it just doesn't seem that complicated. So that kind of took it away a little bit for me. I know it's a kid's show too, so that plays a part in it, but I don't know. Any thoughts?
I
I
don't know what
think
your thoughts.
it's just time constraints. So
Yeah.
I think that was.
But I think it's cool. I want to know like how old is that lightsaber? Is it from Atten? So is this like an old Republic lightsaber that we're seeing here? Because it definitely looked more High Republic-y. Because High Republic from like the books and everything, like they seem to be more golden laced, very, I don't know, very expensive looking lightsabers compared to the ones that we see afterwards. So I don't know. I'm feeling like it has to be like an old Republic or High Republic lightsaber.
I think it's Old Republic because we're fitting the theme with the Old Republic
Yeah.
credits.
And you would think that because we learned, I forget what the captain's name, the captain who was the original captain of the ship. What is his name again? Does anyone recall?
I can't recall that the droid kept telling.
Like something Arad but
Yeah,
whatever that guy is, who they show like a holograph image of him, um, which I wonder who that is. I will have to find out probably in this last episode. But I would think all that bounty is probably from, or at least most of it from Atten, which if that's the case, and this lightsaber is from Atten, then you would think Old Republic as well.
yeah.
So
Hopefully, we're not like going too. We're looking through at different episodes of like where we're going at. But that lightsaber though, I definitely think it's Old Republic.
yeah,
Is how Jude Law looked at it, and I think he's got to be an old, maybe trained Jedi. Is my thinking before the Jedi Order fell.
I
or
disagree because he had zero interest in it when they went into the room. It wasn't until Wim picked it up and threatened him with it that he ever had any interest in lightsaber. All he cared about was the way to at Atten.
Wouldn't that be like a pirate way to do it? Act like you're not interested when actually you are.
I don't think the show is trying to convey that.
I just throwing it out there. Just
yeah. How did
Justin,
Wim?
where's your notepad? I got my notepad.
I got
how
a good
did
memory.
how did Wim?
That's
How
actually not
did
true.
how did Wim notice it? When did they see it? Do you remember?
It was just laying on the floor,
Yeah.
and they
Did
look
they,
over it, and he's like, "Oh, that's a lightsaber."
and he noticed that before that confrontation, or did he notice it
Yeah, he
before?
noticed it before the confrontation,
Okay. Okay.
which I knew it was a MacGuffin that was going to come up later in
Yeah.
the episode. I knew the second you saw it, I knew it was going to end up in Jod's hands.
Yeah. I knew someone was going to grab it. I like how they did it though. Have Wim grab it upside down and
I know.
have that transpire.
I do appreciate that. That was awesome. That
Yeah,
was
that was pretty hilarious. That was pretty funny. Anything else on that episode? I wasn't too fond of Pocket's character. That's the pirate with like the white eyes and everything that reported him in.
Yeah, the bounty hunter lady.
Yeah, the bounty hunter lady.
Yeah, it was kind of
time.
goofy.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been other means to that, but hey, cool. We got it looked like one of the creatures from Last Jedi. Remember when they're in the casino at Last Jedi and they let like those horse creatures loose and they're like stampeding through everything and destroying everything? There's that one alien creature that like is like opera and she's like, woo!
Yeah.
That creature
yeah.
was in that episode. I don't know if it's the same one. I mean, same individual, but
There's
she
also
was,
like the banking clan, the
yeah,
Muns,
the Muns. Yep, they were in the
which
spa
is
pools.
Plagueis's race.
Yep, exactly. So there were other cool elements, tying in elements that I saw in it that I definitely appreciated. All right, so let's go to episode 6, Zero Friends again. Do you want to segue into that from what you were talking about, Bogey?
Let me see. I'll get my
Your notes?
notebook out.
And you look like an NFL coach.
Especially with the headset.
It's just got fired because a lot of them are getting fired.
Okay, let's see what I'm looking at my notes here.
I'm
Okay,
just
when
one
is it?
word, filler.
Right,
That's the
Dustin.
word. That's what this episode was. Complete
Filler.
and utter filler.
You guys were all waiting for me to just bash this episode. Um, so I'm getting tired of movies and shows, and they did it again in this episode. It was awesome to see all of a sudden, like, oh, like the pirates were like, oh shit, and like they start flying off, and the X-wings are like flying
Yeah.
off. They're sitting there like, hey, hey,
Oh. Like they
really?
could see
Does,
them.
does that ever work? Like, let's be honest. Does
Hey,
that
we're
ever?
down here. They're leaving without us. They probably didn't even know you were there.
So that adds to the. I'm like, oh God, okay, fine, throw it in.
Yeah.
What's the other one? And then why the F did they split up the kids? Like the four kids, they split up.
Oh, because they
Well,
had a disagreement on how to do things.
yeah. Well, and I think,
But I thought they had an agreement the prior episode. So it just like went from like north to south quickly.
well, I think, because Fern's idea was to climb the ladder. Like the best way out of here is to climb the ladder. Let's get out of here and let's do it that. KB rejected that, not because she didn't like the idea, but that, and this is my interpretation. Tell me if I'm wrong, but her system, because clearly now she's an android. She's not actually,
Which
right?
which is another thing I want to bring up.
So she's like Lobot, who's actually an android and not fully human. She knew her system was like failing and that she wouldn't be able to climb it, but she was too afraid to tell Fern that she couldn't do it. I don't know why. That I guess their relationship was just in that state that she felt embarrassed or something. I don't know. But that was my interpretation, that she split off from Fern because she couldn't actually do it and didn't want to tell her. And Fern was dead set on doing that. And then Wim just was like, well, I just want to follow the crab people. And then I think Neil was just like, I'll even it out by making 2 and 2. So that was just my interpretation of it.
Which is exactly what you said. Dustin, do you have any? What you said, Mudge, is definitely what I kind of like
Okay.
took it, but I thought it was like lazy writing, lazy script,
Yeah.
like kind of like splitting the two, but like, okay, I'm going to be your best friend, and then my best friend is now going with your best friend, and I was kind of like, wait, what? What's going on here?
I feel like it
So
was the writer's poor attempt of like putting themselves in kids' shoes and being like, all right, what would it be that would split these kids up? And that's what they came up with.
but
And
clearly later we'll talk about the next episode, how they
yeah,
like recoup and everything. But Dustin, do you have any thoughts on that kind of take of the kids just splitting up, but they like randomly just kind of one
Yeah, it's
off?
just cliche. It's super cliche. It's not rational at all. If what you're saying is true, Mudge, then it would be. I mean, first of all, who knows KB better than Fern? Like they're
right.
best friends. She
Yeah,
could
So
easily just
true.
exactly.
like,
That's
hey, you know I'm
yeah,
an
that's
android. You know I'm having issues. Like I can't make this climb.
Yeah.
It's nonsensical. It's not how things would play out in real life.
Yeah.
So that's my problem. That's when because it's bad writing in this
Yeah.
particular case. You know, you are working with children characters, so I give them some slack. But this particular case, it's like this makes no sense if that is in fact what is taking place, in the fact that KB knows she can't make that climb, but she's too afraid to say. But then she puts herself in danger by following the fucking crab people and then shutting down when there's a giant crab, you know. Which again, I just would think of Moana. I thought that crab was gonna break into song.
Which we talked about before jumping on, which I think is really cool, is that it was claymation and it's still
Stop
motion,
motion, still, yeah.
still stop motion filmography. So like kudos to that, because it look I wouldn't have been able to tell if I didn't hear that that's how they produced that. Um and I just feel like it's so much better when they do stuff like that or use puppets or whatnot versus going overboard with CGI. Because if you go overboard with CGI, it looks really fakeish. And I would rather it look claymation-esque versus fakeish, in my opinion. So I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, so I just don't think there's much in this episode, really. I mean, it's just the relationship piece between the characters. The writers are trying to kind of give that different take,
Yep.
different spin on things.
It's trying to show that Fern can lead. It's trying to show that Wim has the courage that to step up in a moment to do something that he's not really comfortable with or familiar with, when he had to like save her by putting his like hand into her head one way or another to fix her. So I think it was just kind of establishing character traits and personality, character development, essentially.
Yep. And I mean, really, the only other thing I
And
have to say about the episode
revealing
is the ending.
revealing
It's
that
dumb.
yeah, and revealing that button at the end that they said before, never touch that, just confirmed our initial thought process of that they would eventually push that button, which they sure did. And out of it, you get a badass looking ship, because before it was a little more rugged looking.
Which
And
we're
now,
going.
what?
We'll get to that point, but
Okay.
Dustin, keep going. Whatever you
No,
want.
the only thing I did like was, so Jod is, climbing out of the hole with all his booty, which reminded me of Smee in Hook.
Oh yeah.
What about me? What about Smee? Me? What about me? So he
I'm
grabs all
Smee.
the
Smee is me.
yeah. So he does that, and then of course he's like right away the pirates are like, "But you just walk right into us, you idiot!" And then he's like, SM-33, get him, and they just fucking shut him down right away. I'm like, that's how it would go. That's realistic to me. It's like, yeah, this ain't Disneyland.
You mentioned Smee, so I just have to go back a little bit to the previous episode. I don't know if this is true or not. It's a rumor, but some of the outfits that the kids used in their disguise were the same ones from the kids, or from the Lost Boys in the movie Hook, that used to dress up when they
to get around
infiltrated the pirate place. Like, I heard those were the same costumes.
That would be, I mean,
like, how sweet would that be?
Yeah, high level. That's pretty awesome.
Because I think Hook is Disney, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
Disney,
Yeah.
or Hulu or something like that.
So that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, the ending of that episode 2 was kind of a little weaker. Again, it was just trying to establish them getting their ship back.
I mean,
how they did it.
I got
was
notes.
just
I got more notes.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear what your notes are.
I mean, okay, all right. So they're flying into, like, when they're trying to rescue like the ship is trying to blow, or it's the ship that's being um what dropped off at the dump site.
Yeah, it's being carried by like these 4 little transport ships. It's carrying their ship into like a dumpster to be destroyed, essentially.
And somehow how they all get connected, first off, and then how they all get on it. And then the ship is like, to me, it like also gave me like Toy Story 3 vibes when they're all just like going into the dumpster.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm just like, okay, what? And then what's his name? Is it
Wim?
Fern, not Fern.
Wim?
Wim gets in the turret. He's like, well, I'll see if I can shoot them off. But they shed that whole entire section. It's kind of like a shell, and it just like comes
Pulls
out
off.
of. I'm like, isn't he in the turret still?
Yeah. I was kind of wondering that too.
To me, that's where I was like, this episode, what the F? along everything else I've been kind of talking about, but like, and he just sitting there and like in the turret still. I'm like, wait, how are you still in the turret?
Yeah, the
Like,
only thing I could think of is one, that shell kind of comes right up to that turret, which would be awfully convenient, or two, that the shell kind of comes over the turret a little bit too, and then it just slides. But it
nothing makes
logically it doesn't really make sense.
it doesn't make sense. That's where I was kind of like, uh,
Now, if you see
this
in the next episode, though, when they're in the tractor beam, you do see those turrets on the side.
Yep.
yes, yes, but they look
But
smaller. But I'm still confused if he was in. I'm just
yeah, because you would think that the turret, if it was outside of that shell, somehow it would get pulled off and destroyed in that process.
yeah. I just didn't understand that whole process. Like,
Yeah. That's why I think, like, I'm gonna call it a sleeve, whatever that. But at the same time,
that,
like,
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
wasn't necessarily pulled off because they detonated it and pieces like blew off one way or another. So I don't know. I don't know how the construction of that ship truly is, but it did seem a little odd at the time.
So with that, any other cruises? Yeah, I think that was like the cherry on top of that was just I was just like, what the F?
Yeah,
Like there
thrown
was
off
like
by it.
I had of all episodes of this whole season, this episode I had a lot of nitpicks.
Sure. Yeah. No, I
But
think that's totally
everything else
fair.
has been I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So
And then
let's
we can like dive into the
yeah, let's
recent.
segue to the most recent episode. So we're going to
Yep.
be in so much trouble. Um, I think this episode's really building the suspense on what's happening. We're approaching that resolution, at least for the season. I don't know if they're going to do multiple seasons. I haven't heard anything. It's probably just going to be a single season. Um, but yeah, you start out with this episode with the parents. They're trying to send communication out to get in contact with their kids, and it's like this transmitter probe thing, whatever you want to call it. And they're out in the middle of the woods, obviously being secretive about this and that trying to shoot it off. But they get encountered by the droids who start shooting and stunning them, which I will nitpick this a little bit. Apparently, like, their sight of these people is bad enough to not know really what's going on, but at the same time, still good enough to see what they're doing and only shoot the people that have the what do you call it? The transmitter.
Yeah.
Like, why are they only hitting the one with the transmitter? Like, why don't you just stun every single one of them? So I thought
Yeah.
that was a
Well,
little
of course, so she could get away and then launch it.
yeah,
That's how.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
But
just so happens.
it's always the person that's furthest away from them in the line that has it, and it's the one that they end up shooting. It's like, well, just
Mhm.
just hit all of them. So that was my only criticism of that portion of it. But they do end up being able to send that up, and then what was it? Then we're with the kids who are arriving to the planet, and the pirates are there too, and what they tractor beam their ship in, and then that's kind of how everything gets going. So where do we want to start with this episode?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent from start to finish, and it's kind of cool to see the tractor beam portion.
Mhm.
I just feel like, to me, if I'm on like the crew, Jod's, and this is something going back to episode 6, his speech was so canny. Like, I didn't buy it, right? The rah rah speech that he got everyone like on his side for a
His
second.
speech in this episode or in episode
Well,
6?
it was in episode 6, but then
Okay.
continuing to this episode, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like, this guy, he's like a cat, and I think the wolf thing almost said something similar. He's like, "This is your last live, Jot." It's like he's got like these 9 lives. Like, oh, he says, "Oh yeah, we'll get through this planet, no problem. It's a decoy to scare you away." And of course, the one pilot gets shot down. And then they were going to space him, and then of course, the one lady let him out for whatever reason.
The slow motion going to press the button.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to nitpick the little things just as well, but overall, I mean, excellent episode.
Yeah.
I think you really start to see assholeness that's coming out of Jad in this
Mhm.
episode.
And his
There is
wrath.
a scene where Anakin would be having a massive boner in his grave.
Is that so? What is his name? What are we calling him? Job?
It's Jad.
Jod,
Jad.
Jod. I mean, he has like 10 different names, but I think that's the name we were
That's the name the kids call him.
initially were
By the way,
Jod.
the most obvious reveal fucking ever is he puts the helmet on. You know, like
Yeah.
Okay,
it was so obvious they didn't even address it. They never once addressed it when after he has helmet on. He just had it on.
Yeah.
Well, he had it on earlier, like the episode 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was before you even knew who he was.
Yeah. So then the question coming from that is who's under the helmet? And then the next time you see him is in the prison. So you're not really sure. I mean, we know it's him, but like the purpose is like, is it really him?
But
But
they never. I mean, he puts on the helmet in this episode again, and it's never addressed. You know,
yeah.
Yes.
there wasn't even like a scene where they're like, "Oh, welcome back, Captain," or nothing. Just it's almost if the first scene in the show is completely worthless because it just was
They
never.
might as well have shown him why even have a helmet, really, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, that scene where he's got the lightsaber and he's talking about chopping up the kids. I was like, Anakin would
Oof.
be so happy.
It's pretty dark. And it was a really good job done when they show him in like the what were they? Just mint capsules or mint facilities, because what they say there's like thousands of them vaults,
Yeah.
like of these vault things, and he's in the vault and he touches the gold and then it all starts trickling down, and you can just really feel how obsessed he is with the treasure, with how he's reacting to this, and it's
Okay,
like
I've nitpicked with this
yeah.
particular scene. So these fucking parents are building a communication device. The droids are like, "Oh fuck that! We're putting a stop to this." This guy's jizzing on the credits, and the robot standing right next to him are like, "Oh, this is perfectly normal behavior." It's like this guy's supposed to be a what do they call him?
Well, he's supposed to be an
An
emissary.
emissary. Worst emissary ever. Like you're not supposed to get high on your own supply. Clearly a problem. I mean, literally, the droid is standing right there watching this dude have a complete, credit gasm.
Well, and it makes me understand why they chose to have droids, because if it would, because I agree, but at the same time, if it was people, they would be a little more suspicious of what was going on in this event versus like a droid who can't necessarily understand emotion. So I I understand why they're using droids in this as like these security people, because that was one of the questions I have. It's like, why is it all droids that are like the guards and like the enforcement in this planet? Like, what's the reason behind it? And we still might not know, but I think uh, revealing that what Jod did in this scene gives me a kind of understanding of why droids are being used in this case too for this show.
Well, he has a kind of a disdain for droids too, because
Yeah.
he said something like, why do I have to deal with all these goddamn droids?
Yeah. Yep.
But I knew as soon as the wolf thing got into the
Brutus.
yeah, when Bruce got into the claw, I knew he was going to
He
get
was
shot
toast.
by
He was
Jad.
toast.
I knew that
Yep.
was going to happen. The gun like perfectly falls like right next to Jad. I'm like, oh, this is how that's going to go, and that's how it went. There's kind of an aliens scene
Oh
in
yeah.
this movie where he's just somehow on the ship when they
Yeah.
take off. I'm like, how did
Yep.
he like how?
I was
You know?
curious about that because they showed the ramp already going up, and it's not like he just immediately went over there. He's like, and so unless he's like jumping onto like what are the foot base things, that the landing feet or
Yeah, well, that's how
whatever,
they
and
got in Aliens, right? That's how
yeah,
and
yep,
they kind of showed that a little bit. The ship loses control and kind of like hits the building.
yep.
So at least you're like, okay, that makes sense. I had no idea how this guy
In this
got on the
show,
ship.
yeah, either do I.
So, but there's another thing I had a slight Again, great episode. I mean, great episode.
Yeah,
But it's a kid show, so as adults, we see things a little bit differently.
yeah.
Um, I'll have to think about it, but
Well,
he
but what I
was.
was really impressed with, two things that really stood out to me. One, the acting. Even I mean, I feel like the kids have done a pretty good job in the show in its entirety.
Which reminds me of what my point was, but can continue.
Episode 6 kind of took a step back for me on that because what we already talked about it, the whole reason for their splitting off, it kind of took away from that acting a little bit. But in this episode, it really quickly regained it for me. The way they handled these situations, like how Fern became a leader, and then Wim, like even though they're like being held hostage and they're trying to figure out a plan, he just like rushes in, and that's like again showing his courage and everything. Just the way these kids are portraying these roles is really good. And then Jod is doing, Jude Law is doing a fantastic job in terms of his like brutality and darkness to him. It's really showing in this episode, and I was impressed with that. And then the second part, which is a thing we've criticized, I feel like with many shows recently, you are really getting a feel to the vastness of Star Wars and the universe in this episode. How huge the like what do you want to call it, barrier is, the gas barrier with all the electrical things. And then you see the planet on the inside. Like that's huge. That's the vastness of space, the vastness of Star Wars. And then when they're flying into the planet, you see like I had no idea the size of their city or town, but when you see it here, it actually looks fairly small. I mean, it's very built up, but it's not that large. But you get a feel for the vastness of the planet, and so all the like the shots of, or I don't know if it's shot because obviously it's not on set or on scene or anything, but they're really doing a good job of making the universe feel large in the show. The Acolyte made everything feel so condensed. It's like you're in hallways and stuff like that. Like that did a terrible job. This show is doing a good job, and especially in this episode.
Yeah, that one speech he gave about the kids just fucking yapping. I was like, I'm gonna use that with my kids.
I when I was watching that part, I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, I bet Dustin is relating to this so well right now.
Oh yeah.
He is totally understanding how
Oh
Jude Law
God,
is
especially at
feeling
bedtime.
right
I'm
now.
like, oh my God, our child at bedtime turns into
And,
fucking, a podcast host. He's like just talking like crazy.
and then Neil's the first one to speak up, and he's like, especially you. And then the
Yeah.
next one speaks up, and he's like, but it's not just him, it's all of you. I thought that was freaking
But,
hilarious. I definitely was thinking of you, Dustin, at that time.
but one of my nitpicks is right. So Jod's, having this little credit gasm in the vault. Why did the kids not be like, hey, George, this guy's an imposter. Like, help
Well,
us.
he threatened them.
Okay,
He
but
threat
now you're on your home turf, and it's just one guy against all these droids, and his plan is nefarious. He's trying to get his pirate friends. I mean, what do you think the pirates are going to do? Like these kids have to. I mean, they have to have some intelligence to them to understand. Like, if the pirates get onto this planet, it's a lot of people are going to die.
I get it. I don't know if they're kids. I don't know if they understand the vastness of like how destructive it could be. That their world is a little more narrowed, and I think they know he's force sensitive or whatever, and I think they're fearful of that because if he
But they
really is,
always knew that. So I'm going to counter. They always knew that. And then, when Fern basically had him choking her, Wim grabbed the lightsaber. So they obviously have enough courage in moments like that to do something bold. I just don't understand why they, on their own planet, surrounded by droids supposed to protect them, they didn't go, yeah, this guy's an asshole. He's a fucking liar.
well,
Like,
they cut out, so they built that drama. So they might still when we first pick it up again, but we'll see. You were
well,
raising
now
it,
he's threatening. I'm sorry, but now he's raising a lightsaber to the kids.
yeah.
I feel like if the droids don't get at that point, then they're the worst droids on the
Yeah.
planet.
Well, I think the droids are probably going to engage on him now, and they're going to be wiped out really easily because they're droids. So then I wonder what's going to happen. But Bogey, you were given a signal.
Oh, I agree with Dustin. Everything that he said, just
Just reiterating it.
yeah, it just
Reinforcing it.
and I'm excited to see what we have one episode right
Yep, one
left,
episode left.
and we'll see how that concludes. And I feel like you get like kind of like this the Jula like I know he's got like 8 names now.
Yeah.
Feels like, but I go by like Jula. I want to know where his like take will go.
Yeah, I think
Like it's so interesting to know what he's gonna do, and if he's got force capability to, and he's got a lightsaber and everything. I don't know. I just it'd be awesome to see something.
there's going to be a
Maybe,
fight scene
yeah,
because I mean they have a lightsaber now. They've got droids. It's going to
yes.
be some kind of
And those droids are like keeping them locked in for some whatever reason.
well, I mean, if they have them locked in, then you can't really pull a fast one. Essentially, you're kind of entrapped in there. Um,
And I
but
brought
yeah,
this up. I brought this up earlier. I think like episode after the second episode, like they when they dropped the 2 episodes,
yeah,
it felt like The Village. If anyone's seen that
yep,
that movie, where you're kind of
yeah.
like, oh, we're just like entrapped in here, and this is how it is. It's like, oh, but then, here we go. We got Old Republic credits. Like, whoa, okay,
So you mean like entrapped in the planet itself, not necessarily in like
yeah,
the vault where they are?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I wonder how much they're going to reveal on that in this last episode. I hope it's a longer episode. I mean, they've got
But you're gonna get a reveal on the supervisor. I bet you're gonna get
yeah.
that on who that is. Which maybe that's the pirate. I don't know why, but maybe that's the
I
pirate
I,
guy.
I'm kind of wondering. I think that's probably the case. The
Yeah,
supervisor is the pirate. Um,
I
and
agree.
because think about it, why would you want to hold this planet secret? Because you've got all the money in the world. You don't want to share it with anyone. That's like the epiphany of a pirate. So I definitely feel like the supervisor is that same pirate. Like I almost think I would almost put all my money on that.
Hey,
Um,
so not gonna lie to you guys, I got 10% battery on my phone, so I do have a stopping
a
point
time limit,
forced by technology.
technology.
So I have one question
Yeah,
before you you're done, Dustin. Old Republic credit. What does that make? I guess make what is the meaning? I guess for me, for a Star Wars fan, I never knew what the meaning was for something like that. Like, why is it so valuable versus something like a New Republic?
Like Spanish bullion to us now. Like if someone found like a galleon with Spanish bullion, like that's a highly sought after thing.
the
That would be
rarity.
my interpretation of it.
Yeah, the rarity of it makes it extremely valuable. So, um,
So we're talking about money, like that. Like I'll give you a dollar bill versus gold.
well, dollar
Or like
bills,
instead of giving you a quarter, I'll give you a Spanish bullion.
yeah, like gold, pure gold coin type of a thing. Like a dollar bill, there's really not much value to the actual dollar. With a dollar, it's more like what it represents. Um, when you have currency like back then, like in the olden days, that the currency was the value. It's not, there's not like a representation. It's like, think of it like a credit card, like, or a debit card. Like it's essentially digits or numbers within a computer system that represents a value that you have. There's no value to your actual credit card. It comes from what, you know, lack of a better word, where the value comes from. Um, does that make
Yeah, I
sense?
don't think we need to get into like the gold standard and the
No.
meaning of currency and everything. I think in this particular case, it's just because it's such a rare currency,
Yep.
and I don't think we need to make anything more out of it. In my opinion, I don't. I think it was more of I use this word. It's more a MacGuffin, right? It's just Old Republic credits, or just something to get you interested as the viewer, and also kind of it's a thing that's supposed to be solved in as part of the mystery, which now we
Yeah.
know it's Old Republic mint.
Yeah. But I
That's what it
think
was a part of.
going back to like a previous recording that we had, because you were talking about like a difference in time, the thought that because they're mentioning they're part of a new republic, but they're talking about old credits. Like when they say New Republic, are they actually like still back in the old Republic when that was like reformatting? And because they've been disconnected, like that is their new Republic.
I mean, they've been cut off from society.
Yeah,
they don't know anything about outside society, which
they don't
makes
even
sense
know
in the
about like
context of what they're doing.
X-wings. They don't even know about X-wings, which is part of the New Republic. So when they say New Republic, I don't think they're actually talking about the New Republic that we know of with like Mon Mothma and the Mandalorian movie or show that we've been watching, Ahsoka. Like those aren't the same New Republic people we're talking about in this show. That we're talking about like Old Republic when it was forming for this planet. So that's my perspective at least. But I think we'll get a little bit of that in this next episode. We'll reveal who the supervisor is and who that captain is, which I think is the same person. I'm hoping to get a little understanding more about Atten and what this planet is. Hopefully we'll get some. And I think we'll get some kind of redeeming sacrifice that Jod's going to do. At least that's my inkling. Because I think I think he does have a fondness for the kids, and I think it's going to show in the end.
Yeah, that's where I'm leading to. Yep, exactly. That's what at least I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this is my last thought. The scene of them going to the vault was just, I mean, breathtaking.
Mhm.
I got
yes.
chills for that. That was incredible. That is, to me, that scene right there, Star Wars.
And the scene of them coming into the planet, being chased by the two starships and them flying their planet and going by the electrical coil things. Like
the Teslas.
The
Teslas. Reminded me of the Teslas in Red Alert.
Red Alert.
Like that's exactly what they remind me of. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that was well done. And when I was watching, I'm like, okay, this is Star Wars. This is what I think of when I want to watch this. So I'm glad we're getting this. But yeah, I think we all agree. Again, this last episode was top notch. Really, really rounding out what the show has been for us. We've been enjoying it the whole time. Really excited to see how it finalizes, whether it's one season or if they're going to lead into another. I hope they do. Like, I mean, and I guess the fan reception for kids has been really great. I know some people that I've talked to that have kids that, they're not big Star Wars fans, but they enjoy movies and stuff. They've presented it to them and they've really been liking it. So I think Disney has been really hitting the mark with this show, especially when you understand what it's supposed to be. So I think when we've been watching it with that concept of it is a kid's show, it's made it a lot easier. Not easier, that's the wrong word. Made it a lot more enjoyable watching it and understand that you're going to have a few maybe minor setbacks with some episodes, like episode 6. Still was fine, but not one of our favorites. But everything else has been really great. Really, really great.
They listen to us. They listen to the people. Listen to the people.
If they listen to us, Kathleen Kennedy might not be at the head of Lucasfilm. I bet. No, I'm just kidding. Which we won't get into it at all. But I did hear there was some rumor of interest from George Lucas for reacquiring Star Wars. How much truth there is to that, I don't know.
He don't have the fucking money now.
And I was just gonna
seriously. Yeah, I agree with Dustin.
Ain't no way he's got the money.
But is Disney going to look at Star Wars as kind of a drain and trying to hand off projects?
No.
They shouldn't because it's a cash cow. They shouldn't. It's a cash cow. So
I don't want to. Let's save this for next week. But there was I saw a quote about the Star Wars movie that's coming out. It's like 25,000 years into the past, and I really like that quote. I think we shouldn't talk about it now. We should talk about next episode.
Dawn of the Jedi.
That quote kind of chubbed me up a little bit.
Just don't do what you did to us with Acolyte. Don't build us up and bring us down, because we were really excited about Acolyte when that was first being talked about. So, and obviously got disappointed. But I know Dustin's battery is probably down to like 8% now.
That's probably closer to 5.
Okay, so we'll start wrapping everything up here. Again, enjoying the show. Looking forward to it. Wrapping up. So I'll speak to our social media handles really quick. You can find us on Twitter at DetBlock AA23pod, on Instagram at detention_block_AA_23, our Facebook group and YouTube channel, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. And you can find us on TikTok at DetBlock AA23. Again, if you're listening, hit that subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate it. And looking forward to next week and talking some more Skeleton Crew and finalizing the season. And then we'll look forward to Andor, which will be coming out in April. I know I was thinking February when we talked last week, but it's actually April, and Fallout Season 2 comes out. We were talking about that a little bit too. So we're all excited for April to come. So yeah.
Let's go 2025. Let's go.
Well, you weren't on. 2025 haven't started well because now I have to buy.
I watched it, but
I have to buy a new furnace because ours just went out. So it's 2025.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So starting out with a bang, literally, because that's what was going on with our furnace. But any final thoughts from you guys? Dustin's shaking his head. No.
Let's go 2025. Dustin was giving middle fingers. I'm sure. I can't tell from his.
No, he's waving his little iPod thing. So
I can't hear you.
He's not saying. He's just shaking his head.
Yeah, I'm just.
So
wait for my phone to go black.
All right. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for listening into us. Again, we'll look forward to talking to everyone next week. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, may the force be with you. Hold on. Come on. Trying to stop it.
Can't stop freight train, bro.
Can't stop a freight train. No, it's like literally I have the wheel spinning when I'm trying to press stop recording.
Yep, my phone's at 5%, so I gotta go, fellas.
All right.
Go beans, Justin. Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck yourself. See you guys.
Love you, bro.
Bye.